Mr. James, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes. My name is Jordan Stefan James.
And could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. James?
Yes. I used to go to Marquette University where I was a jazz flautist, but I dropped out because the program was too hard, so I became a bartender here in Midlands.
Is that what you do right now, Mr. James?
Yes. Actually, before I came here to Midlands, I worked at a bar down in Florida, and I did a little side work as a beach model, but I was just spending my money way too quickly down there. So after that, I came to Midlands, and now I work as a bartender.
And where do you work as a bartender?
I work at Chuggy's.
Can you tell us what Chuggy's is?
Yes. Chuggy's is located in a rundown shopping center. This upper-lower side hotspot is the creation of Italian reggae singer Rasta Primavera. And let me tell you, this place has everything. Screaming babies in Mozart wigs, Muppets doing karaoke, ice sculptures, a kennel of puppies, a shaved lion that looks like Mario Batali, and just when you think the fun is over, knock knock, who's there? It's a pack of Teddy Graham people.
Well, now that we know a little bit about Chuggy's, Mr. James, could you tell us, do you know Mr. Dawson?
Of course. Mr. Dawson always comes into Chuggy's. He's one of my regulars.
And how are you acquainted with Mr. Dawson?
Oh, well, Mr. Dawson always comes into Chuggy's with a huge group of people. He's always bringing friends in, buying drinks for them, having fun. But the one thing that I love about Mr. Dawson is that he is always conscious about not drinking and driving.
Now that we know a little bit about your relationship with Danny, I want to talk about that night of the accident, September the 24th, 2010. You were the bartender that night, weren't you?
Yes, I'm the only one that works at Chuggy's because it's having some financial problems, and so I was the only one working that night.
And so, Mr. James, you were pouring the drinks that night?
Of course, I was the only one that was allowed to pour drinks that the servers took to the tables.
Mr. James, I know you weren't in court, but we've had some conflicting numbers about how many drinks Mr. Dawson actually had.
Yes.
Do you know how many drinks Mr. Dawson actually had?
Yes. I only served Danny 3 drinks specifically. Over the course of the night, though,
Objection, lack of foundation, lack of personal knowledge as to how many drinks the defendant actually consumed.
Your Honor, may I respond? Please. This witness is just testifying to how many he served Danny throughout the night and what he knows to be Danny's habits. He has a lot. He has personal foundation for this.
I allowed it.
As I was saying, specifically, I only served Danny Dawson 2 or 3 drinks. However, over the course of the entire night, Danny Dawson drank much less than usual.
And Mr. James, did Danny pay for all the drinks he had that night?
Of course. At the end of the night, Danny Dawson came up to the bar and paid his tab. But the thing about Danny is he really likes to flirt with a lot of people at the bar, so he usually buys a lot more drinks than he actually drinks.
Mr. James, did you see Danny that night, throughout the night?
Yes. I was working at the bar, but the bar's kind of in the middle, so I had a great view of Danny and everyone else in the bar that night.
Well, when Danny was talking to you and interacting with you that night, could you tell us how he was acting?
Of course. Well, from what I remember that night, Danny wasn't slurring, he wasn't stumbling. He actually looked really well put together. Nothing seemed wrong.
And Mr. James, how was Danny acting when he left that night?
Oh, same way that he did the entire night. When he left the bar, I thought he was fine to drive.
Thank you, Mr. James. I pass the witness.
Cross-examination, counsel.
Yes, sir.